Hello, my name is Lucy and today I'm going to do what books I read in 2018. So this video may be a long video because I did read over 50 books last year. And guess what, guys? I'm standing up because my background is different. And also, all the books I read is on my bed. And I didn't want to put them on the floor. So let's get started. The very first book I read in 2018 was Will Grayson. That book was by John Green and David Letterman. I did not enjoy this book. I did a little bit, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would because it was John Green. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So, next book I read in 2018 was Wonder by R.J. Can't even say the last name. Anyway, but I adored this book and I posted a new video yesterday that has this book in it, as this book was one of my favorite reads of 2018. So check that out if you haven't checked that out. The next book that I also enjoyed is Augie and Me, also by R.J. Bella, I don't know the last name. Like, I enjoyed this book as well because it gave you more perspectives. It gave you more perspectives regarding other characters in the book, which I really did enjoy, because You Love to Hate Me by various authors. So I forget what this book is about, and I forget if I enjoyed it or not, because I read it in January. So I read it like a year ago. Can you blame me? The next book I read was the Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Aliri Sands. This book was great. I loved it. And I don't know why I put it on my list, because I loved it. And I also loved his next book, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Universe. I loved that book as well, but none of them were on my list. Like what is wrong with me? But if you haven't read any of Benjamin Aliri Sands' books, next book I read is Before I Let Go by Marika Nijkamp. Now, trigger warning, it does deal with mental illness. That is a thing that I remember from this book. So, it is a very, very good book. But, just a warning, as always, if you're not comfortable with reading books that have mental illness, you don't have to read them. But if you are comfortable and you haven't read this book, I recommend you do. The next book that I read was Daughter of the Burning City by Amanda Foody. And this book was good, but it wasn't great, because I remember stopping halfway through it or something. And I finished it. It was good, but it wasn't as great. But I did enjoy it, and I think there's a sequel coming out to this book this year. But I'm not entirely quite sure, but I will read the sequel if there's a sequel. The next book I have is The First to Know by Abigail Johnson. And this book was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. So it's about a teenager finding out she has a half brother. That is what I remember from the book. And it's good. And the author has another book coming out this year, which I'm hoping to get when it comes out. So the next book I have that I read is Say You'll Remember Me by Katie McCarry. This was the first book I read of hers, and I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I recommend you picking up this book if you haven't read Katie McGarry yet, because it was good. It was really good. The next book I read was Zenith by Sasha Ellsberg and Lizzie Cummings. I don't know how to feel about this book because I enjoyed it. Like, I did enjoy it, but the font was just like I enjoyed it, and I will read the sequel, but I'm just thinking, I feel like it could have been a little bit shorter. So, the next book, well, I think I read one complete series this year, and that was a series of unfortunate events. So, I read the first 6 of them when I was 14 or 13, and I finally reread the series, and the first book was The Bad Beginning, and I enjoyed it. I really thoroughly enjoyed these books. I thoroughly enjoyed the series. The next book that I read was The Reptile Room, The Wyvern, The Miserable Mill, The Ostor Academy, I believe. I don't know how to pronounce that. The Elevator, I believe the name of the book is. The Vile Village, The Hostile Hospital, The Carnivorous Carnival, The Grim Grotto, The Slippery Slope, Penultimate Peril. Sorry, sometimes, as you know, I cannot say words. Oh, and there's actually a Netflix series about those books, and the final season came out yesterday, I believe, because I am filming this on the 2nd of January 2019. The next book I read was The Lying Game by Sarah Shepard. Now, I read this when I was in year 11, and then the copy of my book got ruined, so I bought another one. And I read it again, and I just forgot what happened. So it was good that I read it again. Was Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. And this book was another book on my favorites list, because it was just so suspenseful, and I enjoyed it so much, because I don't really read adult novels as of yet. I do read sometimes if people recommend them. I'm still sticking to YA mostly, because that's the genre that I'm comfortable with. The next book is, I believe, is a translated book, and it is called October is the Coldest Month by Christoph Carlson. I think that's how you spell his name. And this book, it was quite a short book. It was really good. It's a really good book. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it, and I think I read it in 3 hours or something, because I was on a plane. I just forgot, because I know that I read this when I was away. The next book I read was Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. I'm slowly making my way through Morgan Matson books. I promise. By the end of this year, I'll be finished reading them. I promise. But I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was Landlined by Rainbow Rowell. And I enjoyed this book as well. But I forget what this book is about, because I read it in March or April. I know, I just quickly forget what books are about. I'm horrible like that. I read was Attachment, also by Rainbow Rowell. Now I remember what happened in this book, because it involved emails. And it was a really good book. I loved reading it. The next book I read, it was a poetry book called We Come Apart by Sarah Crossan and Brian Conahan. And just a warning, there is domestic abuse in this novel, in this poetry book. So just warning you, if you haven't read this and you would like to read it, but you didn't know the triggers, I'm just telling you that that's a trigger that may trigger some people. The next book that I read was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Now, I enjoyed it, but I didn't overly love it. I know I'm gonna get hate for that, aren't I? Like, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. Was Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertelli. I enjoyed this book. However, one question I have that I keep asking in videos when I have this book is, was it mentioned in Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda that Leah was bi? Because I read that book and I can't remember any mention of her being bi. I'm just wondering because I don't know. The next book I read is I Have Lost My Way. Now, this book, I read it quickly, but it confused me, and I completely forget what it's about, because I normally love Gail Forman's books, and I can still remember If I Stay, because there's a movie about it, because I watch the movie sometimes. But I still remember If I Stay because I watched the movie. And I vaguely remember I Was Here, but I don't remember any of this book. Like, it was a good book, but it just confused me a lot. And I did enjoy it, but it was a confusing book to read. The next book I have is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I don't know did I enjoy this book? I forget if I enjoyed it. I don't know. It was good to see the fan fiction come to life, I have to say that. But I don't know if I enjoyed it. The next book I read was Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. I adored this book so much, it's one of my top favourite books of last year. So, me telling you to watch it if you haven't watched it still. This book was so heartwarming. I loved it so much. The next book I have is Amy and Roger's Abbotty Tour by Morgan Hansen. I really did enjoy this book, actually. It was a quick read. It was great, but I didn't like Amy's overbearing mother. Just saying. The next book I have is More Than We Can Tell by Bridget Kimmerer. I really did enjoy this book, but I actually forget what it's about. Ah, yes, I remember vaguely from reading this synopsis. I enjoyed it. It was quite a nice read. So, if you haven't read this book, please pick it up. The next book I have is Letters to the Lost, also by Bridget Kimmerer. Can't say it. And I remember this book from reading the synopsis. It was quite a nice book to read. Oh, and I believe that it has characters in here that were in Letters to the Lost. No, More Than We Can Tell. Sorry, this is Letters to the Lost. They have characters in here from Letters to the Lost, from More Than We Can Tell. So I recommend you reading both these books. The next book I read was a poetry book called Still Here by Rowan Blanchard. Now, if you don't know who Rowan Blanchard is, she was on a TV show called Girl Meets World, which got cancelled, and I was so pissed. I was so annoyed that it got cancelled, because I really enjoyed that show, even though I was on Disney. And this was a really good poetry book. I enjoyed it. The book I read was Eleanor in Park by Rainbow Rowell. I enjoyed this book, actually. I really did. Oh, and there's mention of domestic or mental abuse I forget which one, I think both. The next book I read was Faceless by Alicia Sheehan-Mill. I think that's her name. And this book was I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. This book I read was Just One Day by Gail Woman. Like, one of my friends in high school in 2013 told me about this book, and I just read it last year. Yeah, that is how horrible at reading I am. Just read it last year and I had this book. I have had this book since 2013 at Christmas time. Yes, that is how horrible I am at reading. But I read it, and I need to read the second one. And I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. The next book I read was A Girl Like That by Tazania. I don't know her last name. I think this book confused me a little bit because there was alternating perspectives. It was a good book, but it confused me a little bit. The next book is a poetry book called Sea of Strangers by Lang. I don't know their last name. And if you don't know, I read poetry books to help me get out of reading slump. So whenever I pick up a poetry book, it's to help me get out of reading slump, because I think at this point I was in a reading slump and I needed to get out of the reading slump. The next book I read was Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. I enjoyed this book, but not as much as I thought I would, because it took me a while to read it actually. The next book I read was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. Now this was the very first book of Victoria Schwab I read. I know, I am a horrible person. I have all her other books that she has published. I've not read them yet, but I read this book and I really did enjoy it. The next book I read was What If It's Us by Becky Abatelli and Adam Silvera. I enjoyed this book thoroughly, but it was not on my top 5 of 2018. Or maybe it was. Was it? I don't think it was. I don't go to my whole person. I don't know if it was on my top 5. I don't think it was. Next book that I read was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I didn't enjoy this book at all. Like, I enjoyed it in some bits, but I didn't enjoy it overall. I didn't enjoy it, and I thought I would, but I didn't. The next book I read is Naomi and Ellie's No Kiss List by Rachel Cohen and David Letterman. I didn't really enjoy this book. I enjoyed it a little bit, but not that much. Okay, these are the final books. So, I read Dash and Lily's Book of Dares also by David Letterman and Rachel Cohen. Anyway, the next book I read was no, that wasn't it. What did I read after that? No, I read Two Other Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. I read this for the second time, and I enjoyed it as much as the first. And it was also on my favourite books of 2018. The next book I read was The 12 Days of Dash and Lily. I enjoyed it, but not as much as that I enjoyed Dash and Lily. No, it was Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. Yeah, I enjoyed this one so much. Next book I read, and I fell on the floor. Next book I read was Nick and Noah's Infinite Playlist, also by Rachel Cohen and David Letterman. I didn't enjoy it that much, to to be honest, I did not enjoy it. I pushed myself to finish it. The final book I read for last year was P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han. I enjoyed it so much, but I didn't like the love triangle. So glad that's like from the third book. Oops, spoiler, sorry. So, hope you guys enjoyed this rather long video, and I will see you next time.